Hi, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making brown butter cheddar sauce, and this is my adaptation to Maria Emmerich's brown butter cheddar sauce that I found online. And I am making this because we use this for carnivore lasagna. We use this for, my husband likes it for like a gravy if I make it a little bit thinner. He likes it for gravy if we're doing like a carnivore stuffing or anything like that. It's just so delicious. You can actually use it on in place of like mayo on a burger. You can dip your broths or hot dogs in it. It's lovely smothered over turkey breast or pork chop. It's extremely versatile. So I thought I'd put together a video, and that way then I'd have that part done, and then part 2 will be the lasagna video, but it'll be separate because I like to keep I'll make this up and use it throughout the week if we're going to be having foods to go with it. It's also absolutely delicious with like dipping pork rinds and stuff in it. You can make it so that you can add salsa. If you have a clean salsa or you make your own salsa and tomatoes don't bother you, you can mix that with the brown butter sauce, and it's perfect for a party. So if you're needing to bring like a dish or something, you could bring pork rinds or cheddar wisps or whatever, and the brown butter sauce with the salsa mixed in, and it is absolutely to die for. But you really could use this in place of like a mayo, especially if you thin it out a little. So you can make it thicker, or you can thin it out to make it a little bit more like a pourable gravy. So I'm going to shift my camera down so you can see the pot. First, what we're going to be doing is starting by making browned butter. And I will eventually make a video about browned butter and how I make browned butter bites, because I start out with this same thing, but then I'll add flavor extracts and things like that just to kind of change up the flavor profile of it. And I add bacon and sometimes cocoa powder. So we're going to just be starting with the making the brown butter. And the things that you'll need are roughly 3/4 to a cup of shredded cheddar, and then roughly a 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup of a broth, depending on how thin or thick you want it. And you'll need 2 sticks of butter. If you are using the Kerrygold butter, 1 stick will do. But if it's salted Kerrygold, when you make brown butter sauce or browned butter with Kerrygold, with their Kerrygold salted, it is extremely salty, like choke you salty. So for that, you might want to use 1 block of the Kerrygold, and then or 1/2 block of the Kerrygold and half of a stick of unsalted butter. Just to kind of even it out, because it does get extremely salty because it gets concentrated. You'll see what I mean. So you need the cheese and the broth, and then you will need a stick immersion blender. If you don't have one of these, you could probably use a regular blender. You would just want to take the centerpiece out of the lid so that you don't get too much steam built up in it. I've never done it. I would imagine that it would work, but just because it will be hot. So, all right, so I'm going to shift you down so you can see my pot. All right, now I already started melting the sticks. And I'm just going to turn this back on. For this, you do not want to walk away. You don't want to walk away from the stove like I'm doing right now for more than a couple of seconds here or there. because you don't want to burn the butter. Burned butter is, you just need to throw it out. You should not consume burned butter. There's a difference between browning the butter and burning it. So you kind of melt it. This cookware, this is a Green Life pan. I just happened to get it off of Amazon because I wanted a ceramic pan, a white ceramic pan, because it just makes it easier for certain recipes. So this is actually like the only ceramic pan that I own, and I love it. I plan to add a couple more ceramic pans like this, just because they're so nice. They don't lose their non-stickness. I have some anodized cookware, so it doesn't flake like the old non-stick Teflon, but it does lose its non-stickness. So basically, you're just going to keep stirring this around. And I would suggest also, if you have a power burner, not doing this on a power burner. Do it on a regular burner, because a power burner is going to just be too hot. And right now I'm on medium, but there will be a point where I turn it to low. If I was to do that over here on my power burner over here, my low is still too high. It's like a medium on the rest of the burners. So okay, so you can hear this really starting to sizzle, and it's going to start foaming up, and that's what you want. So as the foam comes, so what this is actually doing is it's clarifying the butter. So if you've ever used ghee, ghee is a clarified butter. It's essentially, if I was to strain this and not have the browned bits with it, then it would be ghee. And so if you're sensitive to dairy, people that are sensitive can't even use butter, they can use ghee. So we'll just let this keep going. It's going to eventually be pretty white on the top, and then that'll start dissipating, and you'll be able to start seeing the brown on the bottom. Okay, so you can see how the bubbles, the white foam, has started to dissipate. It's not going to completely go away, but if I kind of move it out of the way, you can see all the brown. This is not burnt. Like, you would be able to smell if it was burnt. This is not burnt. That is actually the milk solids being pulled out of the butter. So if you were trying to make your own ghee, you would strain this through like a cheesecloth, and all those brown bits, which are very rich and almost caramelized, would be left in the cheesecloth, and you'd be left with a clarified butter, such as ghee. So you can brown this as brown as you dare to go. If you've never done brown butter and you're worried of the risk of burning it, then you would just probably stop right about now. Because I make brown butter fairly often, I'm comfortable going a little bit further. Alright, so this is probably good. I've got a lot of browned bits in there, and the foam is really starting to dissipate. So what I'm going to do is you take your cheese, and this is going to get very loud and sizzly. I've turned my heat down to in between medium and low, and I'm not going to use the entire, yeah, I will use the entire cup. And so you just kind of stir it in, and don't drop your whisk like that. So you're going to stir it in, it's going to foam up, and that's okay. now you're going to take your broth, and this can be homemade bone broth. This can be if you have a clean broth or stock. So I'm not going to use the entire 3/4. Well, it's not quite 3/4. I'm going to use about half of a cup. And then I'm going to remove from the heat. Now, if you have an electric stove, you'll need to move your pan completely. So this looks like an absolute mess, but the magic happens when you start blending it. Because this is a ceramic pan, I actually move it into a metal bowl. Because my immersion blender is has a metal, well, it's metal. All right. So I transfer this. If you have a different type of immersion blender, or you're using a pan that doesn't get scratched by metal, then you can just do it right in this. But all right. Okay. So now I'm going to just raise the camera a little bit. Okay. All right. So now you can see this mess, and you really just kind of start, you're just going to start blending it. And at this point, like as it's blending up, if you feel like you want to add more cheese, you can add more cheese because it's hot enough, it'll still melt. Okay, so I switched out the bowls because that one was just a little too big, and this way you can see it a little better. You can hear it changing. You can hear the sound changing. You can see the creaminess that's coming. Actually forming from that mess that it was. And I'm just going to keep mixing it until everything is all incorporated and it's basically emulsified. Set that right there. So this is done. And you have this wonderful, rich, delicious sauce. So you could probably do, in place of the stick blender, you could probably use the a regular blender, but again, I've never used it. So if you do use a regular blender, leave a comment and let me know how it worked. I'm going to take a taste. So good. So good. So you can either use this right away if you have a dish that you're getting ready to make. Or you can put it in a put it in a dish and put it in the refrigerator. It is going to get very thick. So before you use it, you'll want to maybe pop it in the microwave or warm it up for just a little bit so it kind of thins out a little more. But that's all there is to making the brown butter cheddar sauce. So if you found this video helpful, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and share, and we will talk again soon.